Welcome back to the Unstuck movement. I am Rob Z. I am your host for this podcast. And today we have the incredible Carol Williams with us. Carol, I love to get right into the thick of things because great questions create amazing breakthroughs in our lives. So I want to start this episode out with a powerful question to get right to the heart of the breakthrough that you had in your life. How did you identify the moment that it was time for you to decide to leave your toxic marriage? How do you identify in that moment? What does that look like for you?
Rob, thank you for that question. I wish that I could say it was all me. It was not all me. That moment was a defining moment for me because my therapist, who I had been going to for week upon week, and most likely she had been hearing the same things recycled every week. And you can imagine how frustrating that may have been for her, and to some degree for me. I remember when she leaned over like this and she took her glasses and she went right like this. She goes, "Okay, Carol, here's the thing. If you don't leave them for you, leave them for your oldest son, at least temporarily." And it hit me right here. And I said, I can do this. So I mustered my courage and I went home and I said, okay, what do I do now? What I want to remind everybody is when they're in these kinds of situations, in a toxic narcissist or whatever you want to call it, mine was abusive narcissist, you're not all you. So you have to lean on other people. Community is everything. Your angels are everything. One of them was my therapist. So I went back home and I said, okay, what do I do with this? So I started writing. And I wrote down, out of all the things I didn't like, which were a lot, what were my non-negotiables? And there was one. My one non-negotiable was he has to stop drinking. So I finally mustered up the courage one evening after the kids had gone to bed. And I said, okay, I need to talk to you about something. He said, sure, shoot. And I said, I really need you to stop drinking. It's not working for me. This is very difficult. It's hard for me to say, but I really need to ask you to stop drinking. And he said, you're right. I really need to cut down. So I walked away. And in that moment, I knew I had to do something differently because he wasn't hearing me. How's that?
Yeah, well, the power that comes from being able to say that and just to step into that, right? To have that like moment of clarity of this is exactly what I need to do. This is exactly the time that I need to do it. And you can feel the rush in your body in those moments, right? That your senses are super heightened and you're like on this like really heightened level of like everything just feels completely different. What an interesting place to be. So we're going to continue to talk about this place and what to do and how to act when you're in that place. But I have to shout out to everybody who's watching and listening right now. Thank you for being a part of the Unstuck movement. This platform was created to help you break the chains that are holding you back in your life, to find the perseverance and breakthrough that you need in your life or your business. So I bring incredible guests on here who have incredible, true testimonies of breakthrough. Carol Williams is one of these people, a certified business and life coach, solo business owner, and single mom with 18 years of experience in the design profession. After venturing out on her own in 2009, Carol now combines psychology and project management to offer invaluable insights for entrepreneurs seeking balance between personal and professional life. I want to thank also the sponsor of the podcast, the Connected Leaders Academy. Make sure you check out connectedleadersacademy.com. So talking about this feeling that kind of overwhelms you in moments like this,
Mm,
what do you advise people to do in those moments when you're stepping into that thing of, I'm going to have to say this really difficult but important and necessary thing to say.
mm,
I'm going to have this super important conversation that I don't want to have, but I also do need to have all at the same time. What do you
mm,
just coach people through how to be in times like that?
mm.
That can be a very unfamiliar and jarring time for people.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for that. I want to talk about how to be. Probably the best way to talk about that is to start by saying, ask yourself this: do you know of a difficult conversation that on the other side of that difficult conversation is going to be freedom, love, a breakthrough? There's going to be something, but you just keep dancing around it. You either don't want the conversation because it feels icky, or you're like me, that it was like almost danger level. Like there can be danger level. Okay. So our sympathetic nervous system, which is our biggest hog of a nervous system, like all our energy systems, that's the big energy hog, right? It's the one that keeps us safe. We ran from the woolly mammoths back in the day. That's how we kept ourselves alive. Our nervous system keeps us free from threats. If your life and livelihood and safety is in fact being questioned, like mine, okay, that's a different story. So you have to create a safe place, safe-ish place. You know your perpetrator, so to speak, very well. That's one level. Now, you may not be at that level. You may just need to have a difficult conversation with your boss, for example. They're probably not trying to, turn your life upside down necessarily, or they could be. They're kind of weird, toxic people every place. Remind yourself that you are safe. So, getting to your question now, how do you prepare yourself so that you are able to access your inner strength? There's lots of ways, and it really goes back down to the basics, the things that we know and we tend to overlook. So I will start by sounding like I'm some kind of health coach, but yet it's so important. Try to get enough water, okay? Do some deep breathing. I like the breathing where you breathe 4 in, hold for 4, and breathe 4 out, and do that 3 times. I think that's called square breathing. I'm not a breathwork specialist. It is shocking how much breathing helps. When we get nervous, what happens? We hold our breath, right? We brace ourselves. We stop breathing. But at the other side of fear is like a breath breakthrough. It's like you breathe into it's like, I'm going to be okay. So breathe in courage and breathe out fear. And I know that sounds weird and woo woo. And are you kidding me? But I'm telling you the truth. It actually really works. Try it. Try it with something easy, and then try it with things that aren't so easy. Because the more you do something, the easier it gets. So hydrate, drink plenty of water, try to have, a good fruits and vegetables, not like Burger King every day, that kind of thing with soda and, so on. And get out in nature and walk. I mean, these are basic things, but yet people don't do them. And then the other thing I'll say is to spend quiet time alone. Our world is very busy. And what can happen is that when we have to have big conversations that we don't like because they don't feel good to us, you know what we do? We get really busy. And the world says, oh, great, you're busy. Lots of times people say, hey, are you busy? If you're an entrepreneur, hey, are you busy? Like busy is good, right? Sure, it's good to be making money and making an impact and doing the things we want to do. But we need to take time to say, what do we need to do to get unstuck? And that's true for our business and our life. If we're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. If you're an entrepreneur, it's not any different. How you do anything is how you do everything. So again, going back to the question, get grounded and centered into the things that your mother would probably tell you to do. Try to get enough sleep, go to bed on time, don't sort of stay up too late watching YouTube cat videos or whatever you're doing. And, get grounded, have a warm bath if that works for you, whatever it is, have that amazing self-care. Breathe into the little things and then give yourself the courage, because over time it does help to do those bigger things. And then also too, don't forget your angels. Don't forget the people that are around you. I had my therapist. I also had my sister. I had my parents. I had, 3 very best friends. I actually one time drew myself in the middle, and then I drew because I'm kind of an artist, and then I drew all my angels all around me, and I said, I am safe. And I know that sounds crazy, but telling yourself you're safe, telling yourself over and over and over again, you will begin to believe it. And then because you are safe most of the time. How's that?
Yeah, that's wonderful. And all of those strategies help you to approach those situations in a much more clear state. I'm going to add one thing to it. This just happened to me yesterday. The solar eclipse was yesterday, and I climbed up onto our garage roof because I was like, I can lay on the garage roof and I can watch it. And after that, I realized, I have to get down off my garage roof, and I don't have a ladder. I climbed up. So I'm like, I'm going to have to jump. So it's probably about a 7-foot drop down to the ground. And I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. And my wife's down there. She's laughing at me. Our dog's staring at me like, are you going to jump? And I'm like, I'm a grown man. I can jump off this garage roof. But I'm like, I'm going to count down from 3. I count down from 3 twice, and I still didn't jump. I'm still just like kind of frozen, like, oh no, what am I going to do here? And so what I did, I paused and I visualized me jumping down and then barrel rolling, landing and barrel rolling. That's what I pictured happening. And so I pictured, I'm like, I can do this. I see myself doing it. I can do it. I know you can do it, Rob. Do it. And so that's where I visualized it a couple of times.
Yes.
I jumped, I land, I did the roll, boom, perfect. I was like, that was so, it was such a microcosm. I love like the concept, everything in the micro is in the macro and vice versa. And this was an example of like that. I visualized it happening, and I did it. And because I visualized it and it went well when I actually did it in real life. And so I wanted to add that to all the, you put in so many good things in there that are essential for us walking into a tough situation. I'm going to throw in one more, is like, picture that thing as you did it and it's perfect. But one of the things that you said, going into the breathing, isn't it fascinating? You're so true. When we're stressed out, we don't breathe. We hold our breath and we don't even realize that we're doing it. And isn't it interesting also, anytime somebody mentions breathing, I start breathing. So when you were mentioning the 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, I started doing it while you were talking. And I was like, I forgot about this breathing technique. I'm thinking that while you're saying it. And I love this, right? So if you're so stressed about something, you can't think about 2 things at once. While I'm breathing, I can't think about the thing that I'm stressed about. I can't think about what else is going on in my life that's driving me nuts. No, I have to focus on me and being able to breathe. So let's go back to your breakthrough, right? So you had this incredible breakthrough with your ex, and you pulled yourself out of this relationship. I want to speak to that, to speak to people who might be in that right now. As you faced the fear, you went in, and I'm sure you didn't face the fear just once. You probably faced it 100 times in this process, or 1,000 times in this process. How did it get easier? And what's on the other side for anybody who's going through it right now? What's it like on the other side?
Okay, I'll start with the other side. On the other side, first of all, there is a place where you're no longer going to have to worry. You're not going to walk on eggshells, and you're not going to have to worry what's going to happen next, and if something's going to happen that's going to push you off kilter. There's a place where there's peace and you're free. And quite literally, you can do whatever you want because, I see a cross in your background. God's got you. I mean, the divine is what we are, right? We are pure love and light. So that is the truth. And you get closer to who you are by saying yes to what's true, and that you are here to make an impact, and anything that is getting in the way just means that you were meant to get challenged with that thing. Okay. So the second part of your question was all about, the process. Could you please re-ask me that question? Because I don't want to go too far off on a tangent.
Well, yeah, you had to face this thing 100
Yeah.
times or 1,000 times, right? So
Yeah.
how does that get
Mhm.
easier? So it's for somebody who's never
How did
faced
it
it
get easier?
once.
Gotcha.
They've never faced it
Gotcha.
one time, and they're scared to death to make that one step. How did that
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
easier
Yeah.
for you?
Thanks. Okay. So first of all, before I left did not get easier. Okay. It wasn't easier at all. It was actually really hard. And I had my therapist, as you know, I said that. I think for me to get out of the toxic relationship, it, it's embarrassing, but at the same time, just straight up truth. If I didn't have my child, with it impacting him the way it was doing, I wouldn't have done it, because I had such a great, um, I decided when I got married, I would never get divorced. It was not a thing for me. I had that belief. So that belief was actually getting in the way of what was good for me. And therefore good for my children and good for my family and good for the world. So it didn't get easier, but it did get easier once I did leave. So what I did, years and years after I left, was I sat down and I said, I want to write my story. And I did that in 2019 and into 2020. Actually made a little mini course saying overcoming obstacles, to lead yourself first. And there are some steps that, I'm going to look down at my notes, because I just recently unearthed this just a couple of weeks ago. I felt moved to do this, and I'm going to create, an updated version of this. And it goes a little like this. So this is, I hope, helpful for anybody who's facing a difficult situation and is quite seriously worried about what might be on the other side. Because, by the way, every fear that you have is real. It is rooted in some level of reality. Fears are always overcomable. They keep us stuck. And when we look straight at them, think about Wizard of Oz. Think about Dorothy, Tin Man, and how afraid they were of Oz. And then when they finally lifted up the curtain, what was behind Oz? Okay, so every single fear you've got is real, because fear is real. And it's all the Wizard of Oz, because you hold the power. Okay. And I'm getting tingles as I say this. So here are the steps that I'm going to suggest that you create. Okay. Number one is clear the runway. What do I mean by clear the runway? Clear the runway means get yourself centered and grounded. It could look like taking a long bath. It could look like, if it's not safe in your own home, going to a neighbor's house for tea and a nap. It could look like what I did, which was, I decided to take a trip, a 10-day trip to the British Virgin Islands with my father and a couple of his friends, and leaving my kids at home going like, why are you leaving? It's like, I need to leave. Kind of putting yourself first, getting your head clear. So clear the runway. I really needed that to clear my runway and get my head clear. The second one was when I came back from that and said, okay, I'm going to have to do something differently. I need to prepare. I wasn't just going to, I listened to another one of your guests. I believe it was Rusty Shields.
Yeah,
And
Rusty
he said he left he needed something different. So he left his business, his work. It was like gave a 2-week notice without a new job, which is totally cool. But for me, I had these 2 little kids, and I needed to, as their mommy, I needed to protect them. So I wasn't going to just sort of leave with like, a knapsack and a paper bag and 2 kids on my hands. I needed to do a little more planning than that. And so what I did was I did some research. I said, okay, what's out there? Where else could I live? What's my budget going to look like? Where are my income sources? How am I going to, so prepare, do some research. That's step 2. Number 1, clear your head, clear the runway. Number 2, research. Don't over research and never move, but definitely get some kind of like, where are you going to land? Where are your resources? It's very important, whether you're in business or in life. Okay. Third one is to build a community. If you don't have a resource, darn it, find one. Start talking, start, saying your truth. Find your community, because it's all about community. All right. Number 4, here it is, act. You have to do something. And my first action was looking at him. I had already done all this research and so on. I looked at, because I needed to be prepared for whatever was coming. And I said, you're going to have to stop drinking or I'll have to leave. And he didn't answer in such a way that I knew he understood what I meant. So now I had to start acting. So I did. I acted and I moved out. Okay. There's more steps, but I think I'll stop there, because those are the steps that are going to help you go from stuck and thinking about something to actually acting.
Yeah, that's really good. And those lead you on a process of continuous improvement, and the taking action is the most important part to build those activities in. Okay, these are the things that I have to do to move forward. So this is really good, Carol. I'm loving this. Right now, we are going to jump into shouting out our sponsor of the podcast. But in 60 seconds, we're going to come back. We're going to talk about your greatest superpower, and how could the superpower that you possess, like this amazing gift that you have, be the thing that's actually holding you back in your life, and how can we break free from that and flip it on its head? We're going to talk about that in 60 seconds.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world, globally, all across the country, high performers, titans of industry. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, this is where you want to be. Join the Connected Leaders Academy today. We are scaling massively. We want to welcome you in. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JAESCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
Carol, if we have a superpower, which we all do, we all have gifts and strengths that we were naturally given, God-given talents and things that we are uniquely acclimated towards. How are those things holding us back in our life? How do we turn that around?
Oh, I love that question. It's something that we don't often think about. Well, the first thing we don't usually think about is our superpowers, because these are the things, I want to start there. These are the things that come naturally to us, that we think, well, everybody can do that. So the first thing to do really is to identify those. And the best way to identify those is to talk to people we know, like, and trust in our family, our best friends, our close business colleagues, so we can identify what they are. Okay. So for example, my greatest superpower, really my whole life was getting a lot done, being really productive, being in action, being very goal-oriented, achieving those goals, taking care of things. Now let's flip that on its head. Look at what I did as a mom who was working full-time professionally. I had a professional job, went to college, got the degrees, got the licenses, worked the 40 hours a week, had the health insurance. I was carrying the load of somebody who was sort of leeching off of me. But I was able, because of my superpower of being productive, being in action, taking care of things. I took care of the house. I took care of working full time. He was an entrepreneur. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's beautiful. But he could have a different schedule and I could take care of things, take care of the house. I didn't have enough time or energy to focus on myself. And as a result, it was slowly killing me. If I had given myself the, due diligence that I could have, or one might argue should have, or one might argue I give to other people, then, first of all, maybe I wouldn't have said yes to marrying this man. And incidentally, they change over time. So it's not like I was completely blind to it. I just chose something else, which brings me to my second greatest superpower, which became my greatest problem. And that is, I'm really good at seeing the potential in other people.
Mm.
So guess what I fell in love with? That's right, his potential. Women and men out there, or non-binaries, doesn't matter. If you are falling in love with somebody's potential, stop. And even like a business. So here's the thing, it's tough because we see seeds as entrepreneurs, like, oh, that could be something good. Yeah, it could be. But if we do that too much, then what are we doing? We're throwing out our seeds kind of every place because we're so interested in all these things and we're falling in love with all these potentials, and we're not. So first of all, testing and doing the due diligence that we need to do. I see this with people. Like, I recently talked to a guy who said, I'm an all over the place, sir. I do all these different things. I'm a photographer. I'm a graphic designer. I'm not remembering what all these other things are he was doing. And he was absolutely in love with doing all of these different things. And that was he said it was his problem. I said, okay, great. If you could do one thing, what could it be? And at the time, it was kind of just at a party. We didn't get anywhere with it. But do you see, his greatest strength is that he likes to do a lot of different things. And his corresponding lesser strength or weakness or difficulty in that is because he's doing all these things, guess what he's not doing? Making any real money, getting anywhere, getting known, niching down, being the go-to person for, I don't know, anything, whatever it is in his photography that he loves, wildlife photography. Or I once had a photographer that was a photographer, not to down on photographers, but there was another photographer in my one of my cohorts. She'd been doing this for over a decade. And until she niched down and said, that's it, I want to empower women over 40 years old to live the life that they want to live and feel good about themselves. And once she did that, and then she marketed to that audience consistently and got all her back end. So she got clear, she got the support, she got her back end, and she took action consistently. Boom! All of a sudden, she was making an amazing salary, more than she ever had. Salary, I say in quotes, because she's an entrepreneur. That's the difference. So whatever our strength is, it can be our corresponding weakness as well. But we need to know what our strengths are, because they're just our natural thing. It's the natural way we are. And then we can address it.
It's interesting when you have your natural thing, you don't even notice that it's your thing, and you think that everybody else is also able to do that thing. And so it really helps to have other people highlight that to you. And it really helps to know, like, and I call it the gift and the curse, right? Everything that's a curse in your life can be a gift. Everything that's a gift in your life can be a curse, depending on how you look at it, how you approach it, and how do you apply it to your life. So that's really good. Being able to discern, I see discern behind you there. Being able to discern between those two things is really, really important, because that thing that might be destroying you, well, if you get it, it's like this, when a wound is healed, right? When you heal a wound, that part of you becomes even stronger, because that wound had to heal at a level of strength that surpasses what it was before. When you're working out and you're building muscle, you got to tear the muscle down so that muscle comes back stronger than it was before. And it works just that way in us too. As we get through those things that are really difficult for us, they come back as bigger strengths in our life. So
100%.
You're really good at getting things done. And one of the biggest things for me, one of the biggest struggles throughout my life was procrastination. Putting things off and not making sound decisions. How are you uniquely able to make very sound and concise decisions? And what do you advise people who are waiting in that world of like unknown procrastination?
Sure.
Get them to choose, get them to decide. How do you decide? What does that look like for you?
How do I decide? Okay, so you asked me a few different questions. I'm gonna grab a hold of the last one.
I want to know how you make concise decisions, and then
Okay.
how can other people
Make
decide to
concise
do
decisions. Okay, beautiful. How do I make concise decisions? I love this question. And before I say anything, for a more detailed answer, you can go to my website and download the guide, because actually it's all about making decisions. So it just so happened to have that really close to me. So I'm going to pick it up. And I'm going to show you that the first thing to know is that why you may not be making the decision is because, you're not clear, and maybe your energy is going all over the place. So I have this little diagram for anybody who's watching. So sometimes you might be like this, like your focus is all over the place. Sorry, it's opposite mirror here. So that's
No, it's
where
good
that is.
on our
Okay.
side. We can see it straight.
Yeah. Okay, great. And then, so what we want just our focus to go to that thing. Because over here, this is scattered and it's right. So the first thing to do is recognize it. Like, lots of times we know we're procrastinating. We know we're not making the decision, but we're not thinking about it as a big deal, because the body, we can't live in cognitive dissonance, meaning that we can't know that we want to be something over here and have that not match for very long. So what happens is our nervous systems behind the scene, our primitive brain, creates a story that matches. Okay, so then we start to define ourselves. So procrastination. I saw this sign one time in a store that says, "I put the pro in procrastinate." So there's a definition. Like, we're laughing about it, like, oh, it's okay that I procrastinate, right? I was telling you about the guy I met the other day at a party. He said, "I'm an all over the placer." Do you see what I mean? So of course he wasn't going to want to change anything, but he talks about changing something. He's just at a party. This isn't a place to start saying, so, no. But when we can get past that, right? And we can get past that proverbial, I want to lose 10 pounds. Most people will say that. Male, female, doesn't matter. Everybody wants to lose 10 pounds. When we can get past that, then real change can come. So that's why I have the whole guide. Okay. So once you do that, so that's the first step, is to realize that your energy is going every place and that it's actually important. So rather than allowing your body to say, it's just the way I am, allow your body to say, okay, yeah, it is the way I am, and it's not okay with me. So in order to shake things up and to get out of that comfort zone, because when we're comfortable, we're not changing anything. We're just going to, so that way we take a step, the action. We take a step out of our comfort zone, expect it to be scary, and only do one thing at a time. The next page talks about what one thing do you want to do. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, because that's why you download the guide. So that's the next thing. Like, okay, where you don't want to change everything in my life, because that's too much change. Your nervous system's going to be like, can't do that. Frog in a pot, boiling water, put frog in, frog jumps out. No likey that doesn't work. So real slow, you got to change things really slowly, one habit at a time, a little bit, and know where you're headed. So how do I decide? It's a multi-stepped process, starting with realizing that you are in cognitive dissonance. You do want something different. You want to be able to start it really slowly in one area of your life, bit by bit, little by little. And I will just say this one more thing. And that is when you get to page 5, you create this thing called the future you. And the future you can be anything you want. So what I loved, I'm going to go back, because I really did love this one from Rusty Shields, when his mother said, plan as if you'll live forever, live as if you'll die tomorrow. I loved that. I wrote it on a sticky.
Me too. I did too.
It's true, because in my version of that is dream up that future you. I've got a thing over there that says, dream it, then do it. Reminded me of something you said earlier in response to one of my other. So we have to live in the space of, this is what I'm going for. But we also have to be okay with knowing that we cannot. So what do they say? 9 ladies can't make a baby in a month. It's like, you're going to have to take it one step at a time, right? Having having a baby, it takes 9 months. Birthing a business takes some time. Making any kind of change. It's not, we all want the overnight change. We want the pill to lose 10 pounds. That way, when we lost our 10 pounds, we can stop taking the pill and going back to eating French fries and root beer every day. It's like, no, you can't do that. So there you go. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and I love 9 ladies can't make a baby in a month. That's I've never heard that before, and that's really good. I love a great expression that very simply depicts a big concept. 9 ladies can't make a baby in a month. That's really good. You gotta follow the process. You gotta follow the system. And so I challenge anybody out there who's watching or listening to this right now. Where are you struggling to make a decisive choice in your life? What decision are you procrastinating on? And you might be viewing that process as, well, I'm making an educated choice. But at some point in time, when you've gone from educated choice to just delaying it because of fear, right? So what can you do now to make a choice, make a decision, and move forward? Really good stuff, Carol. I love that. And I just, me coming from the procrastination world, I love being like, okay, you have to make a choice. It's time to make a decision. Do something. Do freaking anything. Just move forward and then build a habit in, build an activity in that's going to get you out of the place that you're trapped in. And your story is a great example of that. Coming out of the toxic marriage that you were in, and having a plan, having a system, being able to look back and see, oh, this is how this happened for me. This is how this worked for me. I had to go through this process. So I just want to thank you for that and honor you in that. You came on here, you give us your testimony of breakthrough, you got unstuck, and now your message that you're out there helping people with. I love that so much. So if they want more information about what you do and more about you, they can go to unscatterme.com. Is that the best place to find you?
That is the best place to find me. And since you're asking, I have 3 times a year, I do a workshop to help people to run through this live and so much more. My next one is May 7th. So,
cool.
If you like this, download the guide, and then you will be, notified that this is coming up. And that way you can go through it live with me for 2 hours for a donation. Actually, I give it to charity. So it's a beautiful thing. Arthritis, which is one. Yeah.
And so they can find that and sign up for that at unscatterme.com.
Yeah. So if they sign up for the guide, you just go into the box, name and email, and they'll get the guide. And then they will be notified very soon, because it's coming up. May 7th is very soon. If this resonates with you, please sign up here. And I've got limited spots because I take 15 people usually. That's the maximum. So whoever signs up, and it's all online. So anybody that's listening who wants to get unstuck, wants to stop procrastinating, wants to take that first step, but wants to do it in a way that isn't just kind of scattershot, like, oh, I think I'll pick that. Please come along. I'd love to have you.
I love that. Thank you for coming on here, telling your story of breakthrough. Carol Williams, thank you for being a part of the Unstuck movement.
Thank you.